Jesus Freak here, and I previously made a video where I was talking about re-evangelizing Catholics, and it's my belief that it's necessary to re-evangelize anyone who has a distorted view of the gospel because of the tradition they were raised in or tradition they're in. This, for example, would be a lot of your, I guess some of your high church Protestant denominations even, as well as your much more aberrant yes, I'm referring to Episcopalians. I'm also referring to the outliers, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, that, and of course, Jehovah's Witnesses is going to be harder to deal with because they're probably going to have a little more trouble if you're going to use a proper Bible with them, because they're going to, they're going to have a list of pre-digested counters to your proper doctrine. At least you're not going to have as much of a problem with the fact that now Jehovah's Witnesses, like I said, they have their own Bible that's been messed with in many places. Mormons have the Book of Mormon, but you can just stick to this. You can bring in the King James Bible. They use the KJV. They, in fact, use it exclusively. They don't accept other translations, and that's to our advantage. In fact, let's turn to a random page in one of my Bibles that's one of ours, because it's the Church Bible Publishers. And let's turn to the same page in this one Bible, which is Deseret, that, Mormon church. Okay. And I have actually 3 of these Bibles with the same text block. So here's the... You see, they're identical all in the actual King James part of the text. Same font, same word placement, same headings, and of course you have this in Other Cambridge. That's also the same. Anyway, at least with a Mormon, what they call the Bible, what we call the Bible, you're not going to have to worry about, that they don't accept our translation or they use a faulty translation. Now, they have faulty things they put in another book. That's another matter. You can at least use a proper KJV to try to re-evangelize them. Episcopalian, They used a New Revised Standard, but I don't think they're going to reject you for using a King James. You could probably use any translation with them. They don't really. Yeah, they got a few official translations, but just about all the major ones they accept. So it won't be a problem. Now, you probably would want to keep in mind, especially Catholics are probably going to be able to shoot back at you with verses that they claim supports their doctrine. And you'd probably have to be able to shoot back at them with verses showing that their doctrine is aberrant or reasons why. I mean, we all know, they say, on this rock I build my church. I mean, this rock, Peter. No, he's not talking about Peter as the rock. He's talking that Peter's confession's the rock. Stuff like that. And you're going to have to, well, you got to be forearmed because they're going to know their stuff and they're going to fight back. This is going to be less an issue with, I guess, Episcopalians probably don't know as much about their own Holy Writ as I know Methodists certainly don't. As groups like Catholics and Jehovah's Witnesses, where, they have, I guess, an official press printing their doctrines. Now, you have to go into this fight armed, but you got to keep some things in mind. I've said a few things where I disagree with various other groups. For example, I belong to a church that generally, although not exclusively, it depends on the family and on the preacher whether they accept the idea of baptizing infants or baptizing children. I do not. And I've explained why I don't think so. I think that baptism, I consider it a contract between the individual and God, and something that shouldn't, well, you can't get yourself into a contract if you're a minor. So, I believe that baptism should be for people who have professed the correct doctrine and who are at least 18 years old. And I know Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, they'll baptize someone as young as 8. And Methodists, a lot of them will baptize infants. And now the practice of infant baptism, as I understand it, comes from a medieval superstition that the fair folk would come by and snatch up unbaptized infants and replace them with their own spawn. Research shows that this superstition probably originated from parents in those time periods trying to come to grips with what we would now call autism. And the idea of, someone stole my child as an explanation for autism, believe it or not, it still exists. And that's why you have, parents of autistic children that either some of them would try to kill them or they'd try to cure the incurable, so to speak. It can't be cured by human effort, at least. And they'd rather try to fix things by basically, mixing in what's basically institutional or industrial grade bleach, chlorine dioxide, I think it is. It's not the same stuff that's in Clorox, but it's a bleach into their children's drinks. And, well, like they say, death is a cure for everything. But yeah, this practice does happen, because parents don't want to deal with having a developmentally challenged child. So they'd rather try to fix things and resort to deadly quack remedies. But in medieval eras, this was seen as, you got to get your kid baptized as soon as possible. Or the other reason would be the fear of hell. Well, if your God is so puny that he can't decide that someone who had not through any of his own ability committed any sin should automatically be bound for hell, that's a pretty, I mean, you're kind of limiting what God's capable of doing, aren't you? And like I said, they're too young to understand what they're getting into. And even if you're using water, putting a cross of water on their forehead and whatever, that's not baptism. That doesn't meet the definition of baptism. Sure, call it a dedication, call it a christening even, but don't call it a baptism. Anyway, that's just one place where I'd say, I have disagreements with other people in my church, and I'm willing to explain why I disagree and what I think is the correct understanding. And do I believe that we should be trying to pluck people out of their churches that they've been in and, give them the correct gospel? Yes, we should. We absolutely should. That is part of our mission. And I don't care what church they belong to, if they're believing corrupt beliefs, these beliefs need to be fixed. May they possibly need another baptism, a second baptism, third baptism? Sure, why not? And that's what I believe. Scripture doesn't say he who believes and is baptized will be saved. He who is not baptized will be condemned. But that's not what it says. That's what some people have made it out to say. But that's not. What it really says is he that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. Of course, it's Mark 16:16. And the important thing is our mission is, convert the world. We need to convert them to the true doctrine. If they have the false doctrine, they at least have some of the doctrine. We can correct their errors. That's easier than starting from scratch, I guess. Or maybe not. It probably depends on the person. But that's our goal. We need to bring everyone into the kingdom of heaven. Jesus freak out.